things are getting stranger every day. Our planet is changing, preparing humanity for something far bigger. Skies twist, ground splits, lights flicker. These aren't just sights, they're warnings. Once you see them, nothing will ever feel the same. Up in the skies of Kansas, a local witnessed a series of dotted objects that were moving high in the sky in a very uniform motion on February 27th, 2026. These were easily thought to be a fleet of dozens of UFOs or UAPs that were moving, citing suspicious activity, especially as official reports denied it, and rather described these to be a row of satellites gracing the sky. According to some of the Redditors and UFO enthusiasts, there is also a possibility that this was one gigantic UFO that was sent here to either invade or wipe out the humankind. One of those dotted objects that were seen flying high in the sky hours later that night was seen by one other resident of Kansas, but this one came much closer to the ground.
What the actual fuck?
Its extremely bright light made it almost impossible to get a good look at its nature. It started to move all around the area, continuously shape-shifting, till it got to the extent that it also looked like we were opening some type of passageway or a portal. A sighting such as this can only be best described as an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
What is that?
About these weird, glowing, and dotted objects. There is another theory that these could also have been celestial objects, as the very next day on February 28th, 2026, a rare celestial event called a planetary parade was said to have occurred. 6 planets, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, were seen to have lined up in a gentle arc across the evening sky, which was also seen throughout the night till the sunrise. Since the planets travel around the sun along a mostly flat path known as the ecliptic, they often appear to move along the same line when viewed from Earth. While these incidents were occurring in the West, another much weirder and more massive scene started to unfold in China, where 4 suns were seen, all of which were known to have risen one after the other. As everyone around was thinking this to be some optical illusion, while all 4 of these so-called suns seemed to be projecting heat, which started to confuse and raise concern among the locations, and fueling the speculations of this being signs of the end times or doomsday that might be very near, if not already begun.
What is this?
It's really 2 suns, Jen.
Oh my god.
A very similar appearance of multiple suns was also witnessed down in downtown Sydney, Australia, where around midday, a group of young adults filmed a moment showing a less bright sun that left the city dark. The light was not only distributed between these 2 suns, but also was just focused entirely within the sky. Causes of this phenomenon were largely believed to be the artificial attempts to block sunlight due to global warming, the result of pollution or chemtrails. A very strong possibility of a solar eclipse was also thought to be the case, which was. Seen in North Texas hours later, one appeared to be occurring and was filmed while in the moments of its totality. While this explanation accounts for much of what happened, the fact that events were occurring at completely different times around the world both clarifies some things and raises new questions about whether these were truly effects of the solar eclipse or something else happening simultaneously. While various parts of the world were experiencing unusual solar disturbances, a kind of asteroid came down crashing in Manila, Philippines. It appeared in the broad pitch darkness of the night, where it lit the sky completely, just as the sun does during the daytime for a couple of seconds, as it came striking down to the surface of the Earth. What made it most unique is the size and speed at which it burned vigorously after entering the ozone layer. If these got any bigger, could cause a very similar global extinction event, as it previously happened. So, in the dinosaur era, if there is anything more concerning than giant asteroids coming crashing down on the Earth or the unusual suns, it's the very fabric of the sky tearing or cracking up. A video clip that was uploaded on Facebook showing a moment that was filmed in an undisclosed location, where the sky was seen broken, almost as if it were a computer screen, a piece of the Matrix reality that could be visible beyond it. Speaking of UAP objects and the formation of a portal, one such very similar yet weird phenomenon was witnessed and filmed in Cambodia on 14th March 2025. It was described by some as a ring of fire caused by a natural phenomenon, while others believed it was an unstable gateway that suddenly opened in the sky. The ring appeared after dark clouds concentrated in a small area, and due to its striking resemblance to the portal opening seen in the fictional Marvel movies of Doctor Strange, many began to believe that explanation. Some theorists, however, suggested it could have originated from another planet or dimension, attempting to enter this realm before it was no longer relevant. Now, it's not just the existence of the UFOs that should be alarming here, but also the rapid spread of cloud seeing over the years worldwide, which has begun to affect the sky and the formation of clouds. This very development of clouds was seen in multiple parts of Colorado, where the clouds formed into what looked like a giant hand raised towards the sky, protruding from a thick formation of clouds. On top of this cloudy formation were powerful jolts of thunder. While most of these events and encounters were mostly thought to be real and natural, this one, however, looked very real, though it was not. In June 2023, this very realistic-looking display of several whales that were seen floating through the sky of Dubai as if it was a thing of the norm. This would definitely leave a question mark in the future as to what is real and what is not. Land's phenomenons.
About 50 feet deep. It's in the water.
Just as concerning events that were documented occurring in the skies, many were unfolding on the ground, such as this massive sinkhole that suddenly opened up in Florida.
That is at least 50 feet deep.
This hole was measured to be around 60 feet deep and 40 feet wide that broken down, mysteriously, after an unusually heavy rain that followed earlier, with a great deal that's known about the end of the world, where the ground will start to split endlessly. The cause of these sinkholes is largely believed to be further affecting and randomly shaping, which started to leave everyone concerned about their well-being and their property as well.
This thing I wore this today. When I fall in the hole, I'll at least see a
That is ridiculous.
These concerns were understandable as they started forming, even under the water. This one was formed in a swamp in the countryside of Louisiana that devoured a small grove of trees. Emergency workers were filming on the scene when the activity began. As the water swirled, the trees began to slip below the surface until they were completely consumed. The sinkhole is believed to have been created when it was 25 acres wide, forcing almost 350 residents to evacuate. As this issue of sinkholes started to escalate, another development that was linked to it started to unravel. According to the study and data that was studied by a scientist who revealed that most of the east coast of the US was experiencing these sinkholes due to geologic changes and human activity, which started ever since human civilization first walked this earth. There were additional reports of the ground opening up in several parts of the United States, mainly in the southwest of the North American country, as well as in Arizona, California, and Texas. According to experts, this geological phenomenon is caused by the massive extraction of groundwater, excessive drawing up of natural resources, and mining. It remains unclear if these will stop here and not, or continue to expand over the case of future time. Now, this effect of land tearing apart isn't just limited to the North American continent, but also on others, like in Africa. These photographs were taken around the same time sinkholes and crack openings started to occur in the West, showing how Africa is physically splitting apart due to them. Scientists believe that this will eventually lead to the formation of a new ocean and give rise to a new continent. The aftermath effects of this are unclear to what extent. Wildfires. Another major incident of concern that is actively happening is wildfires, specifically like the ones in California, a place that is no stranger to devastating wildfires. The most recent outbreak was reportedly far more severe than usual. Satellite imagery indicated that 3 major fires in Los Angeles ignited around the same time, with the exact cause remaining unclear. Within just 36 hours, the flames had spread across thousands of acres, forcing more than 100,000 people to evacuate and taking a heavy toll on wildlife. The fires advanced so rapidly that one man preparing to leave his home suddenly found himself and his dog surrounded on multiple sides as the blazes closed in around them. The chaos sparked widespread panic, creating an atmosphere that felt completely out of control. Amid the escalating crisis, a so-called doomsday plane was reportedly deployed to LAX airport, an aircraft said to be making its first appearance in nearly 50 years. End times, Noah's Ark. Although the discovery of Noah's Ark is not directly tied to an end-of-the-world prophecy, many see the biblical account as closely connected to end-time themes. The story describes a world marked by deep moral and social corruption, and some believe current global conditions make such a discovery feel symbolic rather than coincidental. Reports claim the structure's measurements closely match the biblical description, and that it contained multiple levels, said to have housed Noah, his family, and pairs of every land animal during the Great Flood. Shifting magnetic poles.
Earth's magnetic field is the basis for all modern navigation, from airplanes to satellites in space and ships at sea, even Google Maps and smartphones. If it continues to deteriorate, those systems and more are at risk.
Scientists say Earth's magnetic poles are gradually shifting, a natural process that has happened before in the planet's history. Some speculate that if a full reversal were to occur, it could temporarily weaken the magnetic field that shields Earth from solar and cosmic radiation. In such a scenario, satellites, power grids, and navigation systems could face disruptions, and animals that rely on magnetic cues for migration might be affected. Increased radiation exposure could also impact technology and communications. While past reversals did not wipe out life, a modern society so dependent on electronics could experience significant challenges during a prolonged period of instability.
Right now on the surface of the planet, it looks like it's just a bar magnet, right? Our compasses are just pointing toward one pole at a time because there's a dominant two-pole dipole system.
Green Desert Prophecy. Saudi Arabia's so-called greenery prophecy has been making waves after unusually heavy rains transformed parts of the normally arid land between Mecca and Medina into unexpectedly lush green landscapes. Locals are amazed, and many interpret it as more than just seasonal growth. Some see it as a sign tied to old predictions that these deserts would flourish before the end times. Scientists, meanwhile, explain it as the result of extraordinary rainfall, but the sudden burst of life across such vast desert areas has still sparked awe and fueled whispers of apocalyptic significance. Blowing of trumpet. In 2016, residents of Jerusalem witnessed a rare and striking sight: a large ring-shaped cloud with white smoke slowly swirling inside it. The moment felt almost sacred, as if the sky itself had opened, and reports described a trumpet-like sound echoing across the city. Videos of the phenomenon spread quickly, with many interpreting it as a message from heaven. Religious leaders soon cautioned that it wasn't a blessing, but a warning foretold in ancient texts, a doorway opening for judgment. For many, it was a stark reminder that the calm of the world could end at any moment. War Scenario 2026. Global tensions continue to rise within the Middle East. In mid-February 2026, on social media postings, we could see large crowds who started to take down a statue of the ancient deity Baal, reflecting the growing unrest and regional volatility. The statue of Baal was depicted alongside as an enemy, especially since Baal, being an ancient Canaanite deity, is often associated with corruption or evil in historical texts. Following the incidents, various key figures described the burning as a provocative act and warned that the situation was being closely monitored. He also emphasized that these could not face such challenges alone and would rely on allied support, both logistical and financial, highlighting the close strategic ties between the two nations. This certainly could escalate into World War III, the aftermath of which could be a global nuclear catastrophe. U.S. Venezuela. Apart from the involvement in Middle East and Far Eastern Europe, the United States has also opened another front in its south with Latin America. In early January 2026, President Maduro was captured from his soil after a very surgical operation that was executed methodically. There have been reports claiming that the technology and aircraft used during the operation to capture Nicolas Maduro were unusually advanced. One of his former bodyguards, speaking anonymously, said that on the day of the raid, Venezuelan radar systems suddenly went offline, and that unidentified flying objects were seen in the sky, too large to be drones, but unlike conventional aircraft. He also claimed that the invasion forces used what he described as highly advanced equipment that seemed beyond standard military technology, causing defenders to become disoriented and incapacitated. Some of these accounts were echoed in statements reposted by Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, suggesting cutting-edge systems played a role in the operation's success. These personnel can very easily trigger an arms race, which could result in the making of tools that are far more destructive and increase the odds of global destruction. World-ending predictions. From rising geopolitical conflicts across the globe to unusual natural disturbances on land and in the sky, these growing tensions have only intensified fears that the possibility of the world ending feels more real than ever before. Chris Bledsoe, who is a UFO experiencer and a strong believer in God, while being on the Sean Ryan Show, revealed the high possibility of the world ending by Easter 2026.
In Easter of 2026, and from that point forward, they started remote viewing this day. 2026, that's the big day. 2027, that year, something's going to happen.
Astronomers as well reportedly confirm this rare celestial event happens around the same time as mentioned. Chris added that humanity will receive new knowledge that changes everything after some massive change, like a catastrophe or Armageddon, or quite possibly even the return of Christ.
So what's going to happen, I don't know. But I think it's possible that's the return of
Christ.
Yeah.
Sightings of giants. Speaking of different prophecies and predictions that are starting to surface, another thing that is appearing is stories of giants. One such was the appearance of the tomb of Gilgamesh, a giant and a demigod from the Mesopotamian mythology, who, if you believe it or not, looked as well preserved as if it had passed only yesterday or was in some long hibernation. Similarly, in 2002, during Operation Enduring Freedom in Kandahar Province, Afghanistan, a story later surfaced claiming that a U.S. Special Operations Unit encountered and took down a massive humanoid known as the Kandahar Giant.
So we flew in. They're about 4 kilometers. We're hiking through the same area where they were supposed to make. There was no calls made. You just off the bridge. So we're coming down a mountainside. It was a nice path, go path. As we bent around this corner, you could see this opening of the cave. There's a cave. As we're coming around. So instantly we're thinking ambush, maybe animal, could be anything. And there was enough room in front of this cave, but it had a sheer drop off. But there was enough room that we actually got into a decent dispersal in case of ambush.
The being was described as around 13 feet tall, with red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 rows of teeth. According to an anonymous military contractor interviewed years later, the creature allegedly emerged from a cave in a remote mountain area after a patrol had gone missing and fatally injured 1 soldier before being brought down by heavy gunfire. The body was said to have been airlifted away by helicopter, and those involved were reportedly required to sign non-disclosure agreements. Antarctica phenomenon. Among all the things that have been covered, the melting of ice caps or rising sea levels have always been a thing of concern for quite a while now. But some things have been seen and documented that show that this process has exceeded tremendously. Large chunks of ice were seen melting and breaking much faster than ever before. The concern deepened when this red-colored water flowed from deep within Antarctica's ice caps. Now, this is not actual blood, but rather a phenomenon called blood falls. The red color comes from iron-rich water long trapped beneath the ice. As melting ice caps expose it to air, the iron oxidizes, turning the water a deep rust-like red. This makes this even more concerning, as water coming from the depth it has never been seen before shows how critical the situation is getting with melting ice caps. Desert occurring phenomena. Furthermore, another weird end-time-like effect has started to occur. Our high audio noise of singing sand dunes was noticed, which left both the visitors and even the natives concerned, as something never like it was reported to have happened, along with it having very similar effects often described in doomsday prophecies. Aside from that, in the deserts of Saudi Arabia, a jaw-dropping incident unfolded where millions upon millions of fishes were seen flowing through the valley with only minimal water that was keeping them move in motion. Signs of the seas. This is another example in Tulare Lake of what the spreading of the rising water levels throughout the world looks like as more and more ice capes start to melt away.
While it may look like a peaceful morning here on Tulare Lake, if you would have been here 6 months ago, this road that we're standing on that is submerged down there would have led you to tens of thousands of acres of critical farmland in our nation. We're talking tomatoes, cotton, dairy, as far as the eye could see. That farmland is now gone. But here's the thing, it wasn't supposed to be farmland naturally. Tulare Lake at one point in our history was the largest west of the Mississippi. But we came in, the colonizers diverted the rivers away from this lake to use irrigation and agriculture.
With these extremely large areas of land that have gone underwater and will continue to do so, would soon start to affect the agricultural production to an extent that starts to cause global food scarcity, making things much worse than what they already are. Sometimes it's not just the rising sea levels that are a point of concern, but sometimes even a very odd behavior of the Mother Earth. On August 27th, 2023, while working in the rice fields of Amritsar district, a farmer noticed a strange phenomenon and began recording it. A section of a nearby river, believed to be deep, appeared to bulge as the land beneath the water suddenly rose to the surface. Witnesses said the ground would lift from below, crack apart, and then collapse back into the water, repeating the cycle several times. Although there was no confirmed explanation, some speculated that the unusual movement could have been caused by tectonic activity or shifting beneath the riverbed.
Isaiah the prophet, writing nearly 2,800 years ago, prophesied of a day when the very desert regions would blossom like the rose. I'm standing by the shores of the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea is so full of minerals and salt that the waters of the Dead Sea are not good for irrigation. But behind me you can see an oasis of palm trees. That this oasis has been planted by people and it's tended by people because the waters to irrigate the oasis are coming from underneath through springs of water springing up from the desert floor and from irrigation systems that flow from those springs.
While in some cases the rising water levels are a concern for doomsday events that might follow soon after, in other places the water level has to recede to completely dry up. Now, as you have seen how it is fast turning into a barren desert, this is another ancient biblical prophecy that has come true. The prophecy that details Ezekiel concerning the Dead Sea appears in Ezekiel 47, 1-12, where the prophet describes a vision of water flowing from the temple in Jerusalem toward the Dead Sea. As the river reaches the sea, its salty waters are miraculously healed and made fresh, allowing fish to thrive and trees with healing fruit to grow along its banks. Many interpret this as a future messianic event symbolizing restoration and renewal, while others view it as a spiritual metaphor for life emerging from what was once barren and lifeless, which has been some that's unfolding.
Revelation 9 verse 14, that 4 angels are bound under the Euphrates River, and when they're released, they will kill 1/3 of mankind. They will be accompanied by an army of horsemen, and the number of them is 200 million. Revelation 9:16 through 19.
As the very much effect of global warming melt ice caps faster, in other cases, the increased temperatures cause lakes, rivers, and sometimes even the seas to dry up, causing severe droughts in China in parts of the Yangtze, which is affecting hydropower, halting shipping, and forcing major companies to suspend operations. This is something that is unacceptable for a nation that has to support the largest population of the planet. When the signs that every phenomenon and fabric of reality started to shift or act weird, the nullifying effect of gravity was also witnessed. Seeing something like this was long expected. On June 9th, 2024, a tourist visiting the Faroe Islands spotted something wild, a waterfall that seemed to be defying gravity, shooting upward instead of falling into the sea, almost like it was upside down. At first, people thought strong winds were to blame, but the effect didn't just last a few seconds. It went on long enough to make you wonder. Some have started joking, or maybe seriously wondering, that gravity might be acting weird in certain spots on Earth, and who knows, maybe this kind of thing could eventually show up elsewhere too. Boiling eruptions. In May 2023, visitors to Malaysia's Taban Wildlife Park in Lahad Datu, Sabah, witnessed a startling natural event. What first looked like a strange spill across the ground turned out to be sludge and debris violently erupting from beneath the surface, caused by intense underground pressures. Spectators watched in awe as the earth seemed to heave and burst, a rare and unsettling display of nature's power. Experts noted that such underground disturbances could signal broader geological unrest, potentially serving as early warning signs of larger, more destructive events brewing beneath the planet's surface. Warnings from species. A verifiable sign that is visible among all the living species on the planet, such as this cluster and spread of spiders that appeared all over the skies of this area. In January 2019, residents in a rural part of southern Brazil witnessed an unusual event, spiders seemingly raining from the sky. It is even visible among the birds that don't just migrate due to season changes, but sudden gatherings such as this, showing signs of something that's terrible about to occur. On February 10th, 2023, residents in Kyoto, Japan were stunned when a large flock of birds swarmed homes, cars, and streets, a sight that quickly went viral. Similar mass gatherings were later reported in Mexico and parts of the U.S., including Texas, Long Island, and New Jersey. Online speculation suggested the birds might be sensing natural or magnetic disturbances, though no official explanation has been confirmed. In some cases, even the animals have started to react quite weirdly.
Fears of an incoming natural disaster in China are swirling online as a strange sight appears across China. For decades, many Chinese people believe that warning signs emerge before major disasters, including odd animal behavior.
In November 2025, parts of Shenyang, China, were hit by an extraordinary downpour, the heaviest rainfall the region had seen in 73 years. As the relentless rain flooded canals and waterways, millions of fish were seen thrashing very aggressively, appearing to struggle as if desperately trying to survive. In Spain, a large herd of horses was seen running in circles through downtown Madrid, leaving onlookers confused and alarmed. The exact cause remains unknown, but some believe the unusual behavior could signal heightened animal sensitivity to environmental changes, or even foreshadow larger natural events. If you have heard of the red heifer's prophecy for years, it is also starting to seem to be imminent within the near future. The Temple Institute is raising red heifers in Israel for the first first time in 2,000 years. The restoration of biblical purity is believed to be within reach for the prerequisite for building the Holy Temple, after which the Antichrist is said to appear. If you're familiar with the oarfish, often called the doomsday fish, you'll know that these deep-sea creatures rarely surface, and in Japanese folklore, their appearance is believed to signal impending natural disasters. Recently, sightings have reportedly increased, fueling concern and speculation. For some, this rise in appearances adds to growing fears that major global events or even end-time scenarios may be closer than many would like to believe. The video has definitely reached its end. I will see you again with another wow video. Until then, you can check these other videos out for a wow dose of entertainment and knowledge.